I'll call to order this January 27, 2025 meeting of the Chelmsford Select Board, and I want to let everybody know that Chelmsford Telemedia is broadcasting this meeting live and also recording it for later viewing. So if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have a few public service announcements, and we're going to start with Harrison Mayer from the Clerk's Office with a couple of those.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Manager, members of the public. Tonight, I'm here to speak on dog licensing first. Dog licensing for the 2025 licensing year is open. Over 2,300 dogs have been licensed so far this year, but that leaves 1,800 left. If your dog is one of the 1,800 unlicensed, please complete your dog license before February 28th, 2025 to avoid late fees. You can license in person, online, or by mail, and proof of current rabies vaccination is required. Next, the annual town census has been sent out to all addresses. You may have received yours. Responding to the census maintains your voter status, helps preserve accurate voter rolls, provides proof of residency, and helps us provide better services to you. Included in the census envelope is a vote by mail application form, which you can use to apply for vote by mail for the local election. When you receive the census form, if everything looks accurate, you can respond at the link provided on the form. If you need to make any changes, you can make those changes directly on the form and return it by mail, by drop box at the front of the town offices or in our office. Nomination papers are also available for all local offices. The last day to obtain nomination papers is February 6th, 2025 at 5 p.m. I'm not sure if it's 5 p.m. At 4 p.m. The last day to file completed nomination papers with the Board of Registrars is February 11th, 2025. There are 15 townwide office seats and 69 town meeting representative seats on the 2025 ballot. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact our office. Thank you.
So we have an announcement from the Board of Health regarding their depression and anxiety support group. This is held every fourth Tuesday of the month from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts in the Cabaret Room. For more information, you can email mcameron@chelmsfordma.gov or call 978-250-5241. And from Care Solace, we have an announcement regarding resources for Chelmsford residents. Care Solace will quickly and confidentially find available mental health and substance use providers regardless of your insurance coverage. They also will connect you to social services such as food, housing, and low-cost or free health and dental care. For more information, you can call 1-888-515-7881. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now at the public input session of this meeting. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board on any topic, particularly those that are not otherwise on the agenda? Okay, nobody here. Anybody on Zoom?
No.
Okay, very good. All right, so we'll do committee vacancies.
The following boards and committees have vacancies as of January 27th, 2025. The CCA Town Hall Advisory Committee has 2 terms open. The Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, the Commission on Disabilities, the Council on Aging Board, the Conservation Commission, the Cultural Council, the Historic District Commission, the Holiday Decorating Committee, the Parade Committee, the Public Records Advisory Committee, and the Recycling Committee. If you are interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an online application available on the town website, or you can contact the town manager's office for more information at 978-250-5202.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have a license, a common victuals license for Cava Mezza Grill on 40 Drum Hill Road. Is there anybody here?
Patrick Cartier is on Zoom for this presentation. Patrick, you can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this. We also have Katie Russell in person as well, representing.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to tell you a little bit about Kava and kind of our plans to open up and serve the public here come, hopefully, if everything goes well, over the next 6 weeks. Kava is a fast casual concept Mediterranean restaurant where we serve customizable bowls as well as pitas. Everything's fresh, made in-house. We're looking to hire roughly 45 team members to add to our team. We've currently already hired and trained 5 hourly managers and a salary GM, all of which have been through a very standardized training process. And yeah, any questions for myself or Katie?
Kate, do you want to add anything to that?
I think Patrick said it very well, as always. I would just say my experience has been so positive. And there was one morning where I was helping the team prep, and I suddenly realized it was like, we're not adding any junk. It's just sea salt or some olive oil, and it tastes delicious. So it's really nice to be able to work somewhere where you know you're putting good into people's lives or their diets, or it's quick and it's available. It's easy, right? So you can run in, run out, but it's really good food, and I think that's my favorite part about it.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the board members have questions about this application?
When do you plan to open?
We're set to
End of
open
February? Sorry.
late February.
Great.
And did you have a question?
I'm just curious, the note from, it looks like the building inspector says something about meeting ADA requirements?
So we have a punch walk actually this week to review any outstanding items, and anything that is, non-compliant with ADA will definitely be addressed immediately to ensure that we're in compliance.
Okay, and it mentions seating capacity too.
Yeah,
I'm not
on-
sure why it would mention that, if it's,
Okay, I have a question about seating capacity. It says 48, and then there's something that it looks like it's almost unreadable, like,
oh, plus 13 outside.
is that what it says?
Yeah.
So you are going to have inside and outdoor seating?
Yes.
Okay. I hope you're going to wait till later than late February for that.
You would think so, but New Englanders will still sit outside, so it was a nice day today.
Okay.
Do you own other Kava restaurants, or?
So
I-
it's a corporation, so
Okay.
I actually started with Kava 7.5 years ago, opened up our first restaurant in Fenway, in Massachusetts, and I've been with Kava ever since, opening restaurants from, Massachusetts, all the way down to Pennsylvania. And now my area is Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, we'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the common victular license for Kava Mezza Grill LLC, DBA Kava Mezza Grill at number 10520 at 40 Drum Hill Road, as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we do have a Select Board Member Maloney remote, so we have to do a roll call vote. So Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye. So congratulations, and you can open as soon as you want.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the proposed 40B for Crosby Village. I noticed, though, that the letter that went out to the neighbors and to the applicant himself says this meeting is going to be at 6 PM. So I think we need to defer this part of the agenda until 6 PM. I think, that's the only fair thing to do. Yeah, I noticed that Saturday, and it was too late to do anything about it then. So we'll go on to reports and presentations. First one is the only one we have tonight, Open Space and Recreation Plan. So Megan, are you going to handle this? Or did Mike step out when he was supposed to handle it? Okay, thank you.
Megan, do you want me to get him?
Oh, he should be back, hopefully. Hi. Hello. My name is Megan Tenhoff, and I am here to obtain a letter of support for the Department of Conservation Services for the Chelmsford Open Space and Recreation Plan. Next slide, please. So my name is Megan Tenhoff. I'm the Sustainability Planner with NIMCOG. I am here with Mike Ashola, who is our Senior Land Use Planner. There he is. And we work with NIMCOG, the regional planning agency supporting the 9 communities in Greater Lowell. So today I'm going to do a brief overview of the open space and recreation plans, discuss a little bit of the engagement, and next steps. So open space and recreation plans are a requirement for discretionary grants to preserve and protect open space and parks. They're required every 5 years. The Chelmsford Open Space and Recreation Plan has the 9 sections that are required. It has 14 maps, about 112 pages, and an ADA self-assessment that is over 300 pages. Next slide. The Chelmsford Open Space and Recreation Plan was driven by a committee that was appointed by this select board. It had members of the Conservation Commission, staff, planning board, and community members, as well as the select board. And this work was done under direct supervision of Evan Belansky, the community development director, and town manager Cohen, as well as the very great support of David Coots, Conservation Commission coordinator. Next slide. Our community engagement for this plan was between June and October. We did the usual outreach, reaching over 1,000 people through 2 different community events. We had over 400 survey responses, and this engagement effort was different because it had enhanced environmental justice outreach through semi-structured interviews and focus groups. Next slide. In February 2024, the Commonwealth released a new strategy for environmental justice, which required intentional outreach and engagement by and for environmental justice communities to create plans, programs, and projects that share equal benefits and burdens. Through our focus group, semi-structured interviews, and lots of flyer postings in environmental justice neighborhoods, Chelmsford has 6. We learned that signage was a need, a desire for flexible open space, opportunities to learn about ecology and restoration, fun youth-centric programming, amenities such as benches, shade, or picnic tables, heat relief, somewhere to go when it's really hot, shaded or in the water, an improvement in recreation programming, supporting community food security, and accessibility, both in terms of transportation of how people actually get to the parks in Chelmsford, but also the ability to move in that space once they arrive. Next slide. So we took our in-depth, amazing community engagement, reviewed the inventory of available lands, reviewed town and state plans, developed an analysis of needs for our open space and recreation goals and objectives. Next slide. So we came up with 5 complementary goals, objectives, and actions that really work together to increase capacity and complement all of the work that's being done in one project or action. So our 5 goals are to increase community engagement with open spaces, enhance accessibility and promote equity, improve climate resilience through strategic land use, maintain, upgrade, and steward community spaces, and goal 5, expand recreational opportunities. Next slide. So the core priority actions for this plan are to first and foremost develop an open space and recreation plan implementation committee. who will be charged with doing land management plans, assessing communication strategies, and an assessment of current recreational programming. So the next steps are, today I am here with my colleagues, Jennifer Raitt, Executive Director, and Micah Shola, Senior Land Use Planner, to obtain a letter of approval and support for the Open Space and Recreation Plan. And I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, any questions for Megan?
And my team.
No. George, any questions?
No.
Pat Maloney, do you have any questions? Okay, Erin, Virginia?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, very good.
There's Pat.
Yeah, sorry.
Do we need a vote?
All right, so
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, Aaron will make a
We
motion.
just need a vote to accept.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept the open space and recreation plan as presented.
And offer a letter of support.
And
And to
I'll
provide
make a
letter of
motion
support.
to accept the open space and recreation plan as presented and a letter of support.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Have a roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, next is our recommendations on the one warrant article on the special town meeting, which will be beginning in slightly over 2 hours. So Paul, did the planning board have any changes that they wanted to show on what we have here in our packet?
Yeah, would you like to see what,
Well-
there'll be an amend, here's what's happened. Let me just take a moment and put it into context. Chelmsford having a town meeting tonight, and I also know some other communities having town meetings tonight, because 6 months ago, in August, the legislature adopted state law that provides by right accessory dwelling units. Since that time, and the law becomes effective for the accessory dwelling unit portion on February 2nd, which is this coming Sunday. So effectively, it becomes effective next Monday. What that means is regardless of what happens tonight, meaning if town meeting approves it or doesn't approve it, the law is going to be in effect. So towns, as I mentioned, like Chelmsford and other communities, are going to town meeting in essence to modify their existing bylaws, or in some cases adopt bylaws for accessory dwelling units, so that they're in conformity with the state law, and really in essence to provide assistance to residents, because the applications go to the building commissioner, and he has to deem whether, within 30 days, whether a application for an accessory dwelling unit is in compliance with the provisions of the state law. As the state learned clearly with the MBTA zoning process, they have a regulatory approval process where they have to issue draft regulations and then final regulations. The draft regulations came out several weeks ago. That enabled the town to draft the bylaw amendments to the based on those draft regulations. And then 10 days ago, a week ago Friday, the final regulations came out, and it was made aware to folks last week after the holiday that the final regulations were out. So basically, since that time, and particularly over the last few days, and including this morning, Chris LaValle, who's been the point person and lead for the planning board on that, has worked with council to modify the proposed motion that's in the Finance Committee booklet and materials to conform with the final regulations, which provided a little more guidance and clarity. And so they have proposed 2 amendments that will take place this evening that will conform, to the best of our knowledge, with the final state regulations. What they have to do with, or one is, it's striking language. Basically, most of them are deletions from our context. For example, the planning board's recommendation provided that accessory dwelling units could not exceed 2 stories. The final state regulations came out and said, no, the regulations on accessory dwelling unit cannot be more severe or stringent than the existing principal unit. I think the planning board felt that there wouldn't be an ADU of 750 square feet higher than 2 stories anyway, so they're striking it so it makes no material difference. And then there was another provision of the bylaw that had to do with definitions, and basically council said, no, strike your definitions section, and then just reference the statute having to do with the provision of definitions in the law. So in essence, I mean, if you like, I can actually I can put on the screen hang on one second. I'll just show you the actual amendment,
Well, okay, so
just to give you an idea, just to what it is in terms of the.
Well, I have a question about process.
Go ahead.
So suppose those 2 amendments are not adopted and don't pass, will we still take a vote on the main motion?
Yes, and so this is actually the text of his. It's hard to read. Maybe I can put it up. Basically, because of the timing, there was not time to post a public legal meeting of the planning board. So therefore, they come in the form of Chris LaValle's amendments, because he'll be the presenter, and he's a planning board member and town meeting representative, so he can present an amendment. So that's what's taking place here. What the open meeting law does allow is that boards are allowed to convene during town meeting without being posted. And so what we expect will happen is the motion will be put on the floor. Chris LaValle, as the presenter, will propose these very brief amendments. There'll be a vote on the amendments, and if that passes, then they'll go to the main motion as amended. If not, they'll go to the main motion, and it'll be voted. It's a majority vote under the provisions of state law for the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Many of you are familiar. Typically, it's a 2/3 vote for zoning bylaw amendments, but as was the case with the MBTA zoning, the state has provided, because their efforts to promote affordable housing, it's only a simple majority vote for passage. What will then happen is they'll ask the planning board for its recommendation. I expect the chair of the planning board will look to the other members and say, do you support the amendment? Obviously we know they support the main motion, and then that's how it will unfold. Chris LaValle also updated his presentation so that town meeting will be able to follow what's transpired. Also, this motion, as well as his revised presentation, in addition to the Finance Committee booklet, will all be available in print form for the members tonight. So the hope is that it's as understandable as can be. I think the town meeting reps will understand the fluidity of this process, but also the need and the intent of the town to assist residents and comply with the state law. And then at the end of the day, even if they don't do all that and they wrote it down, the law becomes effective anyway. It's just more difficult. And so what is this going to do? Is this going to provide clearer definition of the standards for the ADUs? As far as I know, the only issues that are, I don't want to get, but what I can tell you is, I'm not saying there won't be discussion, there won't be perhaps additional amendments, but basically I think Chris LaValle will explain what the planning, as he has in his materials, what the planning board is seeking to do here. And then I think the town meeting will make an informed vote on whether and how to proceed with the matter this evening. So that's sort of where we're at with this at this point in time.
Okay, well, what I think we should do,
Yep.
I think this board should vote on the main motion, and that's it. Because we don't know what's in those amendments, and we haven't heard any debate. So that would be my recommendation to this board, that we do that. And then, as far as when we get to town meeting, I think we vote as individuals there. I'm not, I don't favor us trying to
Right.
convene
I can
there.
tell you that his amendment, just as an FYI, his doesn't change the spirit or the intent of what the planning board was doing. So I think that should be sufficient.
Okay, Virginia, you had something?
I guess I was feeling like we know that if we vote on the main article, that's really not what's being brought before town meeting tonight in its entirety. And given that we don't have something that the planning board was able to meet on and provide as a planning board recommendation, I was almost feeling more comfortable just taking no action or abstaining from a vote because
We could do that, too.
because the context is really the main, the original warrant article plus this amendment that the planning board's going to be deciding whether they all concur with it in real time. And it seems relatively straightforward, but I don't feel comfortable voting on a recommendation for something that I know isn't really the whole thing that's coming before town meeting. So I'll probably abstain if we vote, or I'd also be comfortable taking no action.
Well, I guess I would say that in other situations, if, but for the timing and everything like this, we usually do vote on a main motion, and then sometimes we do have amendments, even, we may or may not know about them ahead of time before the actual town meeting.
Well, the difference that I see is if there was more time in the timeline, the planning board would have come back to us as a planning board and said, this is what we think has to change. And right now, it's really an individual coming back, getting the planning board together in real time. But however you guys want to proceed is fine.
Erin, any thoughts about whether to vote? And guess
I mean, I
that's the
don't
question.
really feel like it matters much either way, but I do kind of agree with Virginia. It's a little bit up in the air, so it kind of would make sense to take no action, knowing that that it's not really complete. Or it's actually kind of
Essentially, we know it's not
actually a little bit
compliant.
faulty.
We know
Yes,
it's not
faulty,
compliant. That's
so-
why I'm hesitating to.
Yeah, so voting yes to
I
recommend
absolutely
something
vote
that
in the
isn't-
spirit of what we're doing. I just know that what we're looking at isn't compliant.
I agree.
George, any thoughts?
I mean, sooner or later, it's going to be that way, so I guess, I don't think it matters if we wait a little bit and then vote on the whole thing. I don't know what Pat,
Okay, although, I was going to ask him to, Pat, do you have any thoughts on it?
I don't really either way, except to say that maybe a vote just to show support for the main article. Just to show, I mean, I don't know how everybody else is going to vote on this, but, I support the spirit of the article, and I did read up on the things that needed to be changed, and Paul just offered a good explanation for those things. So I'm fine taking a vote just to support the spirit of this, but whatever the chair sees as appropriate, I'm fine with.
Well, it looks like we have three that would prefer not to take a vote, is what I'm hearing. George,
yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't really mean anything,
I know, well,
I
it's,
mean, I guess it means that we're basically behind it, but it's not
Right.
going to be official till,
right. Yeah, I mean, do we want to take that vote so that town meeting understands that we do endorse
good
the
point.
spirit?
You could say that we endorse the spirit, as assuming we vote that way, you could say that we endorse the spirit of it and we took no action on the article.
Okay, I mean, I'm
I'd be fine
okay
with
with some kind of
Knowing
motion.
that
I'd be
there
okay
were
with
changes coming, I'd be fine with that.
So do you want to make a motion like that, Erin?
Okay. Should be fun.
That'll be a
Really
tongue
good at this.
twister.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to support the special town meeting warrant article presented in spirit, but to make no recommendation due to the nature of pending
Amendments?
Compliance amendment.
compliance amendments to potentially be made at town meeting.
That's probably
Second.
a little bit more complex than we needed,
Okay.
but, all right, and we did have a second there. Okay, so motion has been made and seconded, so roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye, 5-0. Thank you. Okay, so Paul, we'll move on to the MSBA feasibility study agreement.
Yeah, just to, thank you, Madam Chair. The reason this item is on the agenda is that at your last meeting, the board voted to approve the MSBA feasibility phase agreement. The document then went to legal counsel for certification. And as we know, the MSBA has like a straitjacket on the process. And upon review of the board's motion, council suggested that the board revote as presented. So again, it doesn't change anything. He just wants to make sure that, again, that there's, because of the Leo certifications of MSBA, that the board's vote be as drafted by council. So basically, your motion, I guess the simple thing would be for Aaron to just read the motion. Again, it doesn't change anything and doesn't bond the town anything, but it's almost like a bond council type of review of the motion. So we'll go from there.
Okay, any questions before we do that motion? Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Aaron?
Did Pat have a question?
No.
I will make a motion that the board confirm its prior vote to authorize the town manager to enter into the feasibility study agreement for the Colin Moses Parker Middle School with the Massachusetts School Building Authority as presented, and to make any amendments necessary thereto, and further to authorize the town manager to make binding decisions relative to the above referenced project, subject to the feasibility study agreement, and further to authorize the town manager to sign and deliver the feasibility study agreement on behalf of the town.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That's a roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aaron? Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye, 5-0. Thank you. Okay, Paul, you can start your reports.
Okay, try to be brief. What you have before you this evening is the first draft of the warrant for the April spring annual town meeting. At this point, when this was published, there's 28 articles. I think it's pretty sense of where we are. Basically, what'll happen is 2 weeks from tonight, you'll get a second review, and then at your second meeting in February, on the 24th, you'll sign the warrant for the spring annual town meeting. Most of the warrant is the intent at spring town meeting is financial, so that's why the beginning of the warrant is very familiar. As we know, we always have reports of town officers at every town meeting. Then it'd be any amendments to the current year's operating budget, then approving the Neshoba Valley Technical School District assessment for the upcoming fiscal year. By the way, I spoke to the superintendent at Neshoba today. They actually have 3 member communities are in town meeting that night, so she will not be present. She wanted me to pass along her regrets, and I know we'll see her before then. But the assistant will be there, as well as McDonald, committee member McDonald will make the presentation to the town. And then after the Neshoba Tech budget is approved, the next warrant article will be the Chelmsford Public Schools budget, then the town's general operating department's operating budget, then funding for collective bargaining agreements, Finance Committee Reserve Fund, the upcoming fiscal year capital budget, sewer enterprise, stormwater enterprise budget, a vehicle for stormwater enterprise, the forum, golf course, and PEG access enterprise budgets, the annual authorization of the revolving funds, cemetery improvement fund, where there is a request, which is actually a correction vote fund the property valuation services for this upcoming fiscal year, which is the reval year, the 5-year reval year, and for properties in town. And then there's an article to accept the provision of state law to provide cost of living annual increases to the veterans' benefits by the community that are provided. That was part of the HEROES Act that came out this past fall by the governor and the legislature. I've put an article on to study options to fund and improve municipal operations. Basically, I think this hasn't been done in 20 years, but this is basically taking the time and providing some funding to look at everything, given the financial challenges that are before the community. Then there's a general bylaw amendment regarding the fees that are imposed by the town, working with council to basically provide the flexibility and availability for the town to modify its fees in a timely manner. We then move to the Community Preservation Fund for debt service, annual appropriation, which is for previously approved projects, as well as their administrative expenses and reserves. And then there is the one community preservation article, which the community preservation has adopted following your support, which would be to appropriate funds for the underground utilities through the town center. Next one is the citizen petition article that was tabled in the fall from Mary Donovan regarding the pet cemetery. And then there's a general bylaw and a zoning bylaw regarding outdoor lighting that Kelly Beatty has been working on for the past several months. And I think he's waiting final adjustments with the planning board for approval. And then there's the MBTA zoning technical corrections. Again, a corrections article following the Attorney General's review with some suggested amendments to our MBTA zoning bylaw, which we are in compliance with. Right now we have interim compliance. That notice came out today. And then there's a bylaw in accordance with the recently adopted federal floodplain. We have to amend our bylaws to comply with the floodplain districts. And then there's a street acceptance article, Woodbine Terrace. So that's where we are at this point. The superintendent, Dr. Lang, notified me census was published of a minor local adoption for funding for foster children reimbursement, so that will go on the next list. There may be another easement or two, but that's where we stand at this point under the review of the warrant. So again, 2 weeks, I'll come back with another draft, and then the final you'll be asked to sign in your meeting 4 weeks from tonight.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
do you envision like this is a 2-night and the top of the second night would be the pet cemetery? Or, because I know you were sensitive to where that was placed.
Yeah, I will do that for Mary Donovan to put that on the second evening as well, because I just think,
Make it the first thing on the evening?
Exactly, because there's no sense having her like, gee, Mary, we don't know how the meeting's going to go, so it could be 10:40, 10:30 or whatever, but you wouldn't mind staying and then
But you
getting
do
to the next night.
expect this will be a 2-night meeting?
I expect this to be a 2-night meeting at this point, and then go from there. It may not take the full 2 nights, but I don't see that we would finish, particularly beginning into outdoor lighting. Like, I know that's going to generate some discussion and debate. So I think the expectation is we get through the financial, at least the first evening, and then maybe some other things, but then come back for a portion on the second night. So that's the review of the warrant at this point. And then I provided you with the draft. As you can see, these are works in progress. That's why I didn't put them into the warrant for the zoning articles, because you can see they're quite lengthy and could be subject to change. So the next item I have is the latest information regarding the fiscal year 26 operating budget. This is another real-time situation. Last Wednesday, the governor released her proposed fiscal year 26 state budget. Last Thursday, the local aid distributions under the governor's proposed budget came out. We here, like other communities, are adopting them into our budget process because it's the latest and the only information we'll have on potential state aid as we go into the process. As expected, the governor linked the unrestricted general government aid, which we used to call lottery aid, to the amount of funding of the growth of the state budget, so it's 2.2%. And then the other big funding component for the state is Chapter 70 funding. In that case, the governor is complying with year 5 of the 6-year funding schedule under the Student Opportunities Act. And as expected, Chelmsford is a minimum aid community, so we would receive $75 per student under that funding distribution. Last year, at the end, when it was all said and done, the town received $104 per student. We expect this is a floor, but it might be hard for them to move off of this because the way the governor funded the Chapter 70 is unlike in prior years. She's funding it partially from the operating budget, and then a portion's coming from the fair share tax. It just shows you that the state budget's constrained by 2.5%, but yet her budget, if you look at her overall expenditures of everything's proposed, it's well beyond that. And that's where we don't know how the legislature will act upon this. So even if the town does receive more than $75 per student, and let's say it goes up to 100 or 104, with only 5,000 students in the district, it's not going to materially change our financial situation. So we have that information. We put all that information in. Probably the other disappointing part of the budgetary process is the issue of health insurance. Pat was there Saturday morning when it was publicly announced that the premium range for the Blue Cross benchmark program that the town of Chelmsford participates in. The range of increases was from 9.8% to 19.9%. And the overall average of the total increase was 14.8%. Unfortunately, the town of Chelmsford's premiums are running high, meaning our premiums are running at our claims are running at our premiums. That's not how it's supposed to work. With your premiums, you're supposed to also collect the claims as well as your administrative costs and so forth. And again, how it's funded is they're setting rates now for a period that's going to begin on July 1 and run through June 30th of 2026. So they have to do some forecasting. Well, obviously what happened this year is their forecasts were under because the trust is losing funds this year, as is the State Group Insurance Commission. They're underfunded for the current year. So you got to do the catch-up. Hope that you're projecting to break even in the following year, but you got to catch up for the losses that you have this year, and then you're rated on your own claims. Long-winded way of saying the expectation for Chelmsford when all is said and done in 2 weeks when the rates come out is our health insurance premium increase will be closer to 17.5%. And then the expectation going in the future is that this is not a correction, that this is a trend. So next year's premiums are not likely to be 17.5%, and the overall isn't expected to be 14.8%, but they are expected to be double-digit increases going forward. And that's not just happening in municipal world, it's not happening nonprofit world, it's happening healthcare in general for the number of factors. Higher utilization of healthcare, higher utilization of prescription drugs, the obviously labor shortage in the healthcare industry that is driving up wages, whether it's nurses, physicians, so forth, and the high cost of treatment and so forth, care. You saw the issue with the Steward hospitals and so forth. What this means for Chelmsford is we're talking a $2 million increase in our premiums for the upcoming fiscal year, okay? We currently spend $13.6 million, so you're actually $2 million on top of that. You add the $2 million for healthcare plus the $1 million that our assessment is going up for Middlesex Retirement Board, there's $3 million of increases. Our overall revenue growth is just about $5.5 million. And obviously we got to pay labor, other inflationary costs. So I've met with the superintendent of schools, Dr. Lang, earlier today, along with Finance Director John Souza. We discussed this. We will produce a balanced budget. One, we have to by law, and two is we've been sort of preparing and hoping for not for the worst, but preparing for the worst. So I did talk to Dr. Pigeon this morning, got a sense of where Neshoba's coming from. They're finalizing their budget a week from tomorrow night. I think their budget committee meets tomorrow night, and then they're presenting it to the municipal officials this Friday. Long said and done is, unfortunately, we'll be taxing to the levy, which means people's taxes are going to go up, but they're going to receive fewer services for that because of the fact that over 75% of our revenue comes from Proposition 2.5, and a 2.5% increase doesn't equate with the growth either in these extraordinary costs for benefits and assessments, as well as the cost of labor. So I will submit to you on Thursday morning by the posting of our agenda for next Monday night's discussion, a balanced budget. Dr. Lang will be submitting his budget for publication and agenda posting on Friday. So next Monday, I'll present the budget here, and then next Tuesday, he'll be presenting the school department budget. And so that's where things stand. What you're going to see a reduction in services, the reduction in personnel. There's no way of avoiding it. What I can tell you is, in talking to my peers at the Municipal Association conference yesterday, we're all in the same boat. We saw Drake get in it last year. We saw Westford last year. There are other communities that are probably a year behind us. But obviously, this level of growth in expenses is not sustainable. But we will comply, and we'll have this finalized and in the next few days. So again, we'll be here next Monday night for that discussion. So that's the latest on the budget situation. On better news, on double polls, which doesn't obviously meet the scale of this. The great news is the number of double polls is down to you can see that it's down to, we got 23 open tickets, and I mean, we've never been here. We were down from 44 to 23, which is phenomenal, but it was expected because we saw how the process goes through, and the last couple of months they were working their way through Verizon and Comcast. You can see of those, 23 tickets, remember, National Grid goes first, so there's only 5, which means only 5 new double pole situations were initiated. Fortunately, the weather's been favorable. Double poles come result of automobile accidents or other situations, or just, So the good news is the number of double poles is really down to, I think, probably the lowest level that we've seen. And the good news is, and you'll see in the next item on our agenda, the legislature is hopefully, and the governor's proposing again, to try to address the double pole law to provide, again, a tighter time frame for the utilities to address the double pole situation. So this, again, I think, is an outcome that we've all been waiting for, where we actually have double poles now down to 24.
So,
And what they are working on, just a final comment, is they are working on the oldest ones. In their correspondence, when I sent this out to you, in her cover letter, she noted they were working on one that was a couple years old and trying to get to the bottom of that. So that's what we're really focusing on now, is why are the older ones out there? And then the other big question that we don't know is, this is all what's in their system. Are there double poles in the community that aren't on this system? And so now we'll try to focus on that at this point, because that happens as well as it gets missed. So thank you.
So how long does it take a double pole to get on this list, do you know? Because I know one that happened on December 28th, and it's not on.
It's not on the December list.
No.
Well, again, because the list was cut the first week of January, so January 1.
Okay.
My guess is, depending upon their system, I would say it probably goes on within probably 2 weeks.
Okay, so
So we'll see. I'll
I'll
receive a new list next Monday.
Okay.
And we'll see what's added. But yeah, that's the other concern, is there's something of the double poles out there that aren't on the list, and that we can probably utilize either residents and/or police and/or DPW when they're out in the field. Do you see double poles? Because now you've got it to a manageable number that they're, it's an unusual occurrence. Let's hope.
Okay.
The next item on my report is, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, you can see the Department of Public Utilities is requesting comments on pole attachments and double poles and so forth. So obviously, the state is beginning a regulatory process on double poles. So I do want to announce a few grant awards. The town received a $25,000 fiscal year 25 fire safety equipment grant award. Those were announced statewide, and so the city of Lowell, which is also in Representative Elliott's district, received $50,000 under the funding. We also received funding under the Cool Corridors project that the Public Works Department did in conjunction with the dog park. And this would plant 25 new trees at the dog park at a value of over $31,750. And so the Public Works will work with the advisory committee for the dog park to make sure that where the trees will be located, as well as make sure there's adequate watering for the trees to take root. And then the final one is the NIMCOG. As you know, they were here earlier this evening. We received from NIMCOG what we used to call them DLTA, now we call them technical assistance grants. The main one for Chelmsford specific was the Chelmsford Street concept and signature properties. That has to do with the Center Village Committee. And you can see they also provided funding to update our ADU bylaws, the Northern Middlesex CEO group that meets monthly, and Regional Housing Services Office pilot support program. So again, want to thank NIMCOG and look forward to working with them in the weeks and months ahead. And then under my appointments, I have 3 appointments. One is for the Council on Aging. It's to appoint Penny Shea to a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2027. And then to the Holiday Decorating Committee, Deb Taverna for a 1-year term ending 12/31/25. And then the reappointments of our longstanding members, John Floria, Eric Merrill, and Vivian Merrill, again, through 12/31/25.
Okay, any questions on the appointments? Not, we'll take a motion.
I will make a motion, I can do them all together, right?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the town manager appointments as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so take a roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. Okay, we have some minutes. I'm going to propose that we skip the first one because none of my edits have been incorporated into that. Virginia, did you have any on there? Do you know if they made it in?
I see at least a couple of them that I put in.
That are in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. None of mine were, so if everybody's okay with that, we can
We can defer it.
okay. All right, so let's go to the next set, which is 1223. Anybody have any edits, concerns about these minutes? If not, we can take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Select Board regular meeting minutes of December 23rd, 2024 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye, 5-0. And the last set is January 6th. Anybody have any questions or edits on that one? If not, we can take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Select Board regular meeting minutes of January 6, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. All right, we still have a few minutes before 6 o'clock.
You have to make the announcement of the determination.
Yes, oh, okay, you're right, yep. I do have, some announcements about releasability of executive session minutes. We had 2 sets of minutes that were released in their entirety from June 6th, 2022, Segment 1, and July 11th, 2022, Segment 1. There were 2 sets of minutes that were released with redactions from September 9, 2024, Segment 1, and November 4th, 2024. And there were 3 sets of minutes that were not released from October 7th, 2024, Segments 1 and 2, and December 9th, 2024. Okay, and we still have a
You
few
have
minutes.
liaison reports.
I know what's
Okay.
on the agenda,
All
Paul.
right, no, you said you were saying, you make it sound like we were done, we had time.
All right, Pat, do you have any reports or referrals?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay, George?
No.
Aaron? See, you guys aren't making this very easy.
I have a couple.
Okay.
One is I just wanted to recognize I participated in Eagle Scout ceremony in January for Xavier May for his project. Xavier built a new area for the shot put at the high school. It used to be dirt and mud, and one of the really cool things about his project is he pulled together a lot of people from around town to make it happen, including materials suppliers, the Chelmsford Open Space Committee, DPW, and really just brought a lot of people together to make that happen. So that was a great celebration. And my second liaison report is with the Fire Station Study Committee. The committee is just finishing a couple of little administrative things. We've wrapped up our work. We, at our last meeting, literally our last meeting, we approved a final report. So all of the work of the committee is documented in one place, and that's posted on the committee's website, and we'll also include it with the document archives.
So now the work goes to the Permanent Building Committee to follow up?
Yes.
All right, very
Yeah,
good.
and related to that, the Permanent Building Committee has advertised the RFP for design of services.
Thank you, Paul.
Which will get that process going. And then once that is gone, then we'll hire a project manager. So the time frame still remains. The goal is to have the work completed by the end of this calendar year so that we're bidding around the December, January timeframe, which is the optimal bidding time for new work that comes out. So yes, everything is moving along, and Christine Clancy's done a nice job advancing that.
Okay. So that was all you had? Okay, I have a couple things. Xavier May was at an Eagle Scout ceremony that I attended last Saturday. He was the MC, and he's quite a storyteller. But anyway, so there were 2 new Eagle Scouts that were given that had their courts of honor last Saturday. George Vosnakis and Nick Vosnakis. One of them built the raised beds at the senior center that people were able to enjoy there. And the other one did some work at his church in Lowell. So also I wanted to note that we have a lot of NEMCOG stuff tonight. They will be having on February 5th at 5 p.m. An opportunity for the public to provide input to several transportation plans, especially the public participation plan. So if you want to add comments, public participation for the public participation plan, that's your opportunity, Wednesday, February 5th. And also accepting comments for the transportation improvement plan and the new way that projects going on the transportation improvement plan are going to be graded using the new transportation evaluation criteria. So there's a link on the NEMCOG website if you want to register for that. It'll be just a virtual meeting, so to register for that meeting. So that's all I have, and we have about 4 minutes before 6 o'clock. Do I have any stories, Paul?
Yeah, no, I want to make mention of Jim Curley sent out the notice. I think that would be about the Minuteman Walk. Maybe, while we have a moment, that on Patriots Day, it's the historic 250th commemoration of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, and they are going out at 4 a.m. in the morning for, I think, what they believe is their last time doing it that early in the morning, to march from the Chelmsford Common to Carlisle, and then from Carlisle to Concord. They're obviously wanting, because of the historic nature of it, wanting ultimate community participation in the event. I believe he said it takes several hours to do this. Just to put it in perspective, he said it was about 9 a.m. that it's completed.
How long is it?
It's about 5 miles to.
It's about 10 miles total.
Yeah, 5 miles to Carlisle Center, and then another five to Concord.
Right.
So yeah, that's why they're saying it's about a 5-hour ordeal, because there's enactments and stuff
Well,
that take place.
and then if you're going to walk all the way there, you should stay for the reenactment, the actual reenactment coming across the bridge.
I would love to.
and
My
then they
children
have a-
won't let me.
Yeah.
Oh.
They won't walk 10 miles, at least not without a lot of complaining, so.
Well, it's going to be hard to travel through
Right.
Concord.
Yeah, that's the
And
other
at
thing
4
is-
a.m., it's, yeah.
No, at any time, because there's ultimate security is going to be there, so you
Yes.
really, the other part is you also got to get your way back,
Yeah.
because the security is going to be tight. There's
No
that-
parking allowed in Concord that day, yeah.
Right, there'll be no Concord, it's involving Homeland Security and so forth. And back at the bicentennial, President Ford, was present for the event, and there's an uncertainty whether the current president may arrive, and that wouldn't be announced until close. But it's that level of security and effort that's going on in the event preparation for that. But coming back to the situation in Chelmsford, what he anticipated is in future years, they may still do the commemoration, but not at 4 in the morning.
Right, they'll start in Carlisle at 7.
Starting in
yeah.
Carlisle at 7, yeah.
So, but, I mean, people could still do
Do that, right.
the 5 miles from here to Carlisle. I'm sure they wouldn't mind. But it is an interesting event because, as you can imagine, there is an escort by the police. The Chelmsford Police will escort from the town common to the town line with Carlisle, and then Carlisle picks up from there to the center of Carlisle. And then after that, it's pretty much to the woods, so you don't need a police escort along the roads anymore. So it is it's definitely a good thing to do, and it's going to, I'm sure. I mean, I've done it a couple of times, and one time there had to been like 200 people, but once we left Carlisle, And I'm sure there's going to be thousands this time. So you should do it.
And speaking of doing it, you're within 15 seconds of 6 o'clock.
How about
There you
that?
go.
Okay, so we don't even have to take a break. Okay, it is 6 o'clock. So this, I guess everybody that's still here is here for this topic. Okay, we're required by Mass Housing to gather comments from departments in town and the public, other boards and committees for potential 40B projects. So this 40B project that we're talking about tonight, this is actually their third time up. They've made some revisions to their project. It now totals 16 units, 4 of which would be affordable. And the main part of it will be a building which will contain 14 units, most of which will be one-bedroom units. The information is available on the town website. And just the process that we'll go through here this evening is going to be just like the others that we've done before. We have comments received from departments. I will review those comments, see if any board members have any additional comments, and then we'll open it up to the public. As you know, we do have a special town meeting at about an hour and a half from now, so I would like to wrap this up by about 6:30, so I'll ask those of you who make comments to please to keep them brief, and also remind everybody that any comments that have been made at the 2 prior meetings that we have held on this project, those comments will be included in the letter that goes to Mass Housing later this week. So with that, I will start with comments from the police department. They note that Crosby Lane is currently 15 feet wide, much narrower than a typical road width, and the entrance to Crosby Lane is only 20 feet wide. In comparison, Southgate Road, which is just a quarter mile up the street, the entrance is 40 feet wide and has it's much better at managing two-way traffic, so they do have a concern with traffic. As far as emergency vehicle access, they say that this access is crucial, not just for fire and police vehicles, but every week for the solid waste and recycling trucks, which now have to back down Crosby Lane from North Road. And large emergency vehicles would also be required to back out from Crosby Lane. They note that there's a potential for delays because of the insufficient access for emergency vehicles, and this could cause severe consequences for all the residents on Crosby Lane. As far as parking requirements, it appears that this project, the proposal, fails to meet required parking standards. There's no public parking nearby, and on-street parking is definitely not an option on Crosby Lane. As far as snow storage, there's limited space for snow storage, and storage is essential to ensure that the road and access points remain clear for traffic and emergency vehicles. They also note that the intersection of North Road and Crosby Lane is presently extremely busy. There's no easy way out of Crosby Lane in either direction, and this is going to further contribute to already problematic backups on North Road and contribute to safety concerns at this busy intersection. The fire department had comments. They start out saying that the water supply appears to be adequate, but they will require a pressure and flow test to be confirmed at some point. They require a hydrant within 60 feet of any sprinkler connection, and all hydrants must have a clearance of 10 feet from obstructions in parking spots and shall be devoid of snow storage areas. The applicant must supply a fire apparatus access and turning plan for approval, which would allow for safe entry to Crosby Lane and a way to get out. And it must have an approved apparatus turnaround within the parking lot. The building has to be protected with a monitored automatic sprinkler system that conforms to NFPA 13, and the fire protection systems must comply with the state building code and Chelmsford Fire Department requirements. The applicant is also required to apply to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for addresses. DPW notes that a full site plan review was not conducted because the level of the detail did not allow that full site plan review. So they reserved the right to perform a full site plan review, including stormwater management conditions, upon submittal of a special permit application. They also reserve the right to perform a full stormwater site plan review for compliance with the Chelmsford stormwater standards and bylaws. They also note that the proposed location of subsurface stormwater recharge area is too close to the proposed building. They note that an enclosed dumpster pad and dumpster should be depicted on the plan sets, and a long-term perpetual care of the dumpster, including the emptying and the enclosure, will be the responsibility of the property owner. All existing and/or proposed utilities must be clearly and accurately labeled on the plans. They note that this section of North Road was reconstructed in calendar year 2024, so it'll be under a 5-year moratorium upon completion of that roadway work before the road could be dug up in any manner. They note that the pavement width is approximately 18 feet wide, and it's recommended to be reviewed further with the applicant regarding anticipated traffic impact and proposed pedestrian accommodations. And they also note about snow storage on a location. Per the town sewer capacity restriction policy, a sewer lateral is limited to an increase of 500 gallons per day, so any additional capacity above 730 gallons per day would require on-site treatment via a septic tank or on-site wastewater treatment plant. And the Board of Health notes a couple similar issues. The first, if this proposed project is not able to connect to the town sewer system, it would require an on-site septic system which must meet Title V regulations and Health Department's application and inspection process. And they also make notes about the dumpster, the location, and its maintenance. The building commissioner notes that he will confirm that all the construction complies with all building and energy codes, including the new energy codes that were adopted by the town of Chelmsford. The Water District has no current concerns, but prior to construction, they asked that a representative contact the Chelmsford Water District. Community Development had no additional comments. Conservation Commission notes they do not require any approvals from the Conservation Commission. So that's the departments that have submitted anything to us. Any board members have any additional comments? George?
Well, it just seems like they have a lot of work to do. I mean, a lot of requests to make.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not a lot further than we were way back.
right. Okay. Pat Maloney, do you have any?
Yes. I find that, well, I don't know. I find it somewhat bothersome that the presenter is not there to present the changes to the project here, and I'm sure they're probably not, required to be there, but I do find it bothersome because there's so many things not complete on this, and I wonder if they're not just a little embarrassed to be presenting this. I look at things like the moratorium on the road. So the entrance to the facility is going to be off Crosby Lane. I think they're thinking they can get whatever they need for facilities off Crosby Lane. I don't think that's possible. I think that, going to go and kind of throw what might stick to the wall and do it. But I'm embarrassed for them that they don't, as Chelmsford residents, don't have more information here to put residents at ease. So I find no redeeming qualities in this proposal or presentation other than 4 affordable units which I don't think are worth it for the town. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Aaron, any comments?
So I agree with all of what Pat just shared. And I've said this before in past meetings, I'm still appalled that there are safety concerns from the police and the fire department that seem to be just kind of getting glossed over. I don't even understand how a project like this is getting anywhere, to be completely honest. And I'm curious, I'm wondering if we can clarify before we close this out again for the public and for the neighbors what the process looks like and kind of what their options are as far as expressing their concerns also. Whether it be, I don't know what the best avenue is at this point and what the process looks like going forward again. Can we just clarify that for them again?
Yeah, well, once the town submits the comments that were received this evening and noted from the boards, it will be the expectation is the letter will be issued, funding, advancing the project. It would then be advertised by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and at that point in the appeals process, the legal abutters will be notified, and there'll be an opportunity for the public to present their case to the Board of Appeals during the 40B hearing.
What kind of, does the Board of, I mean, my understanding is that the Board of Appeals doesn't have a ton of, I don't know, leverage here in regard to pushing back on this.
Right, they'd have to, the fact that we're a handful of so units below the 10% threshold, and therefore if the Board of Appeals were to deny the project, then it could be appealed to the Housing Appeals Board at the state.
So if people wanted to contact someone at the state in regard to this in an effort to get it kind of nixed from that avenue, is that?
No, the
somewhere
state
that
won't
they
comment
should?
until it goes through the regulatory process at the local level.
They won't?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a go to the ZBA. There's no, yeah.
I think it's expected that there's a go, based on the track record of what we've seen from the
Yeah.
state, that, this review process is an initial review to see if there are any issues that would prevent them from issuing a letter of eligibility.
And these issues are not significant enough?
Historically, we've not seen the threshold levels, that would prevent, as you can see, most cases, the state, or the regulatory funding agencies provide letters of support to advance the projects, unless you had no clear frontage or you had, high issues of concern.
Fire truck access to burning buildings with children in
Well,
them?
that would be
I mean,
that would be
that's-
part of, well, that's, again, I'm not going to get in to speak to how the state conforms its process, but I'm just saying is,
Very, very
we're
clear.
very clear that it's a very hard threshold for them not to issue a letter of approval. And I think that's why you've seen this go now through 3 iterations,
Yeah.
where it tends to be more in financial and so forth. And I think that's what you've seen in this case.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Because I think if there had been a threshold issue, I think it would have been conveyed to the property applicant, and they probably would have withdrawn and not advanced it. But the fact that this was now a 3rd iteration is an indication that they're
Not going to do that.
that they're not
other
going
way.
away. That they're not going away. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, Virginia,
thank you.
any comments?
I still have the same concerns with some of the major issues that have been identified by the departments that are still unresolved. I don't feel that this fits in that area at all, or that it fits in the historic district. So I just have the same comments that we had the last 2 times
I
we
know,
met.
yeah, I know.
And they don't seem to be moving along anywhere except in the financials, and I'm concerned about what appears to be continued inconsistencies in the financials as well, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so I will open it up to limited public input. As I said, if you could keep your comments brief, and anything that you've said before will be reiterated to Mass Housing. So anyone in this room who wants to speak, and please keep it brief.
I won't take that personally. For the record, Douglas Hausler, Lampert Hausler, and Rodman, I am representing 2 of the families on Crosby Lane. The Doyle family, Joan is with us this evening, and her son Drew, and the Greenwood family. The Doyles are the last house on the southerly side of Crosby Lane, and the Greenwoods are the last house on the northerly side of Crosby Lane. Both are historic structures, as far as I know, are definitely over 100-plus years old on each. I think Pat's description of this application and Aaron's comments are spot on. You're at the site eligibility stage, and I'd ask that the town do everything humanly possible in its letter to DHCD or Mass Housing or whatever it's being called these days to strongly discourage it from granting any approval. The safety concerns have already been noted. There are far more details, and Drew has highlighted quite a few of them, so I'm not going to...
We did get a letter from him today. so
Okay,
we do have
they
that.
speak for themselves there. It's very well done.
It is, yeah.
So I just ask you, you look at those and incorporate them. I'd like to add two other things that you probably not have considered yet as other reasons why this site should not be eligible. First is the presumption that's going on here that isn't being spoken about is, are they going to try? They're going to try to tie into sewer, and they're going to argue the position that a 40B is exempt from local standards, and therefore that the Board of Appeals can grant the waiver of the town policy relating to hooking up. Now, I'd like to add that I had just finished a subdivision past fall, which meant far easier access to things, which was going to be denied because it could not tie into sewer, and was far more appropriate for development than this would ever be. The density of this is staggering, to put it nicely. So I want to be careful because it's going to put the boards and the town policy, the Zoning Board of Appeals is going to be put in a position that it has to assess and vote perhaps against town policy. I don't think anybody wants that. And the Board of Health is definitely on the spectrum of, we don't want septic systems. Right. So I think we're at a standstill on that. So that one issue. Second issue, the board, Supreme Judicial Court in a decision about a year and a half ago on a 40B issued a decision that said that if the town isn't appealing this process, or let's presume the Zoning Board of Appeals gives approvals or denials, the developer has the right to ask the abutters who are challenging it to post a bond. It's called the Merengue case. Merengue versus Six Forest LLC. It's out of Salisbury. And I'm very familiar with it. And all I can tell you is the last thing I want to see is people whose substantial investment in their home, like the Doyles or the Greenwoods, because they're challenging this process, the state process, are then going to be required to post a bond to cover expenses if it's found to be somewhat arguably in bad faith. I don't think they would be applicable here, but I don't want them to ever have to incur that risk. All they're trying to do is to defend the neighborhood that's always been meant to be a single-family residential neighborhood. The Greenwood family made this very easy for me from their position. It's either all of Crosby Lane becomes multifamily or it's nothing, and they know it's not going to become multifamily. Let's be clear. So they're against it. The Doyle family is absolutely against it. Perhaps there are other abutters here this evening who are going to say the same thing. There are a lot of reasons why this should be strongly contested at this site eligibility side. The issue of the traffic and the width of the road and the safety provisions are the things that should be emphasized. And I'd hope that the town's letter is as strongly worded as humanly possible, so DHCD takes notice that this is a process where the town has, and its abutters have carefully reflected on what's going on, and that they're not just opposing it for a NIMBY reason, they're opposing it on substantive bases. So I ask you to, your comment letter be directed absolutely against this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else here in the room that would like to speak about this project?
Hi,
Hi, I'm Colleen Skomas. I live at the end of Crosby. I just wanted to say I agree with everything that's been said. I also had a question. I was wondering where we are at in our 10% threshold for 40B in Chelmsford.
We're close, but we're not there.
And is there any other projects coming up?
If you watch our meetings, you've seen that we've had several, but I don't know how close they are, Paul. I don't know. You might
Yeah,
know.
we're within a dozen units. The problem is if they get the application submitted prior to the town's approval of hitting the 10%, then they're eligible. So right now, there's Morose Avenue is before the Board of Appeals. That won't get us there. So that's why as the chair noted, we were seeing a flurry of projects trying to get in before the window closes.
And then just one other question. How many times can they keep on doing this? Can they, we were here a year ago.
It was almost a year, yeah.
Yeah.
It really, I guess, is up to the state. I mean, they're the ones that keep sending it back to us to do these meetings,
Okay.
so.
All right. And then I just wanted to also agree with Pat, just saying, I think it says a lot that Matt Hansen has not once showed up, and shows it's all for money.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here in the room that would like to speak? Okay,
We
anybody?
have somebody online. Eric, do you want to open up your microphone? He's been waiting, obviously, for quite a while. Eric, can you hear me okay? I hope he didn't wander away from the Eric Homburg.
He's stationed in Africa right now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
You may have fallen asleep. Well, if we
Okay,
can't.
oh, here he is.
Okay,
Okay, great. We can hear
I'm
you.
very much awake. Yep, sorry. Yeah, thankfully I remembered I had to star 6 to unmute, yes. So, yeah, I'm calling in from Africa on a military deployment, and just to kind of prove to the level of importance this is to myself and my family. I just wanted to say a couple of quick comments. The landowner struggled as a landlord for the existing residences. We had our fair share of police activity. We've seen numerous occasions for emergency services to show up, and I even witnessed a man being tased on the lawn. So I want to call into question their ability to even manage such a property. And then, of course, that was, with the police parking on North Road, not on Crosby. But just as the council said earlier, it's really not a NIMBY thing. It's absolutely, the project doesn't fit. It's inappropriate for this type of development. It's inappropriate for the location. The size is too large, as you read all the town comments. But my question is, what happens when they tie into sewer with 6 times the required limit, and then my house backs up because I'm at the very end of that sewer line? Who's responsible for that? What repercussions are there? How fair is that? Also, I just want to note the inability of vehicles to turn around, has already been stated. There's at least 4 families with several young children on the street. The kids do play in the street, and that's absolutely going away if you have that much traffic happening on that tiny road, because you're more than tripling, I think, the population. Finally, the consistent discrepancies that you've all mentioned. The drawing still says 30 feet, which is insane. So it's 15, maybe 18, and then to waive so many suitability and safety concerns for so few actual 40B homes is wild. If you just they want to add 4, okay, so add 2 more and move on. As Colleen said, it's totally a money grab, and it's shameful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Okay, thank you very much, and I will craft that letter to be sent to them later this week, and we'll see where it goes from there. And if it does come before the ZBA, you will all get certified letters, right, Paul? Certified letters from the ZBA about any meeting, public hearing on that, and have an opportunity to speak again. Okay, so how about a motion, Aaron? To adjourn.
Oh, I'll make a motion to adjourn. I was like, are we in a public hearing? No, it's just public comment. Sorry, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, did we lose Pat?
Pat's still there.
Pat, are you still there?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, all right, well,
Aye.
we'll take, okay. George?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye. Thank you very much.